Welcome and thank you for listening to the Sales Maven Show. I'm your host, Nikki Rausch, your own personal sales maven, here to offer you tips and strategies and techniques to master your sales conversations. Today is an on air coaching call, and I'm super excited to introduce you to one of our brilliant, kind of brand new Sales Maven Society members. It's Lizette Cloete. Lizette, welcome to the show, friend.
Thank you so much for having me here. I'm very, very excited to be here.
I'm excited that you wanted to do this. I always say it takes a brave soul to be willing to come onto a podcast and say yes to coaching in a live situation where you know other people are going to hear this. So I love that. And I appreciate that about you. And now tell everybody a little bit about you and your business and what you do.
Thank you for that opportunity. I help Christian family caregivers who are navigating the hard decisions, the hard conversations, the hard burdens, and the hard emotions of dementia caregiving entirely from a Christian worldview.
Yeah. Say more about that. How do you feel like that differentiates from anybody else that's kind of in your kind of dementia support kind of realm?
Sure. That is an excellent question because after 30 years of working with people with dementia from a medical model and then stepping out into this as a Christian um, pastor's wife perspective, I have been wrestling with that question for 2 years.
Okay.
And what has happened over that period of 2 years is that I realize and recognize that there are three fundamental differences between the world's view of dementia and a Christian worldview of dementia. And the first one is that the world defines dementia through the lens of loss, through the lens of equating our ability to think
Mm-hmm.
as equaling our value. And
Oh,
so you will hear things like the person's not there anymore, or they're less than what they used to be, and all of those kinds of narrative,
okay.
which precipitates people feeling hopeless
Mm,
and that it's the worst thing that can ever happen to you. Because if you equate your value, your ability to think as being the thing that makes you valuable,
mm-hmm.
then obviously, if you cannot think, you're less valuable. That's
Got
just a
it.
logical
Yes.
segue from that.
Yes.
So, a Christian worldview of dementia is that we are created in God's image, and because we're created in God's image, we are valuable. So, we
Yes.
start with dignity. Dignity. Then the second big differentiator between the world's view of dementia and God's view of dementia is the world views dementia as disorderly, confusing. Um, things like if you've seen one person with dementia, you've seen one person with dementia, which has a measure of truth,
Mm-hmm.
and it is not true because if you've seen one person, you've seen one person. Yet we know that children are born and if there's nothing wrong, they develop in a very ordered and sequenced way and turn into an adult, right?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And we serve a God of order, or I serve a God of order, which means there is order to the progression of dementia. There is order to death and dying when
Hmm.
people are going through the end stages of life, people who are working with them can see this person is here, they're getting into this, and then they pass away. So there is order within the um, scope of how a person's brain boots up, which is development, and
Uh-huh.
boots down until we pass away. So
Okay.
that's the second difference
Okay.
between what I teach people and what the world teaches people. And then the third one is the world has a technique. It is literally called therapeutic lying or therapeutic fibbing,
Okay.
which is designed to stay in the person who's brain is actually changing in their world, in their realm, instead of trying to bring them to us. But the method that they use for validation is to say whatever you need to say in order to keep that person happy, to not rock the boat. And if that statement, if that whatever you have to say is a lie, then that's okay. Just lie to the person.
Mm-hmm.
And I did that for 30 years. I taught people that technique. And then I was confronted with, through a pastor friend, that, you serve a God of truth. There has to be truth in what you do and how you speak to a person living with dementia. And those three things, so the third part of it is truth. So dignity, order, and truth. So
Mm-hmm.
those three underlying principles is how I show Christian caregivers to navigate dementia.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So let's thank you for sharing that. There's so much clarity in the way that you laid that out, which as I'm getting to know you more, it's very much I love the way your brain works and the way you put things together. And there is a real order
Mhm.
to the way you come up with things. So I have some little insight because we've done some coaching together about things that you've shared, things that you're working on. And I'm just fascinated that there's so much clear structure to the way you process. So you being able to teach a clear structure to somebody who's in which could be considered a chaotic type
Mhm.
situation, definitely a heavy situation, something that can be fairly stressful for people and or also maybe sad too, right?
Mhm.
Like there's grief
Of
attached
course
to
there
that.
is.
And so you, I think showing up with a structure, coming from my background in neurolinguistic programming, where we learn that there is a structure to excellence, it feels very satisfying to my brain. I just want to say that um, it's really it's beautiful to me to see that there's somebody who can stand in this place of offering some structure, which feels like relief. So let's talk a little bit about how you support caregivers. What does that
Mhm.
look like, and how do people work with you? And tell me a little bit about that.
So primarily I work with caregivers, two broad categories of caregivers.
Hmm.
The first is typically the spouse. So it can be a husband and a wife,
Hmm.
or a wife who is working through or navigating this journey with their spouse. I will work with them either one-on-one and do care advising in a one-on-one structure, or I will work with them in a group container for the support of other people who are in the same situation as them.
Hmm.
More deeply and truly working on the biblical component, the where the rubber meets the road, stewardship of the whole entire journey. And then the second person that frequently are my clients are the adult daughters. I'm not saying that I don't work with other people, but those are the two broader categories, the
Uh-huh.
spousal caregiver or the adult daughter, because the adult daughter is the one that usually carries most of the burden. So those people are also either one-on-one in shorter periods of time related to a specific problem that is happening right now.
Uh-huh.
And usually those are decisions that they have to make, or the people that come to me are because they're wrestling with a specific emotion related to a situation.
Mhm.
And then the second way I work with them is also in the group model, in the group container, which is consistent longitudinal help over time. Because dementia keeps changing. So a lot of the problem that happens in the medical model is you go to the doctor today and you have a long list of things that has happened. And then you go through that and the doctor can or maybe does give you some ideas, but three-quarters of them have already moved on, but nobody is staying on top of it, and it
Mhm.
keeps changing, which means people are always a step behind. So by having frequent touch points with people, we can anticipate what's coming next, and we can solve the problem today.
Mm-hmm. I love that. And so is it, I don't know that much about dementia, so bear with me here. Is it something that you would work with somebody? You mentioned kind of like it's maybe a shorter period of time, or where others it could be years of needing somebody like you to guide and support. And I know that there are certain categories, because we talked about this the other day, where it can be, emotional, like they've got some emotional stuff, but it can also be just even on how they communicate with
Mhm.
the other people who are involved in the situation, right? Because that can be difficult if that isn't a skill set, a strong skill set for somebody. And now they're thrown into this position where they have to communicate um, and advocate
Mhm.
for the person with dementia. That's also a place where you can step in and help guide the conversations and give them some skills and to like some guidance, I guess I should say, is what I'm getting to.
Well, and what's been very interesting, because I've listened to your podcast for about I want to say almost a year. It's
Thank
been
you.
2025. I don't
Thank you.
remember exactly when I started listening. And as I have transitioned out of the medical model into doing something very vastly different, just the communication skills and the word choices that I never would have used before, that I'm now teaching clients to do, has been a game changer. And that comes from a lot of listening to you with your background in the neuro-linguistic programming. Just being able to piece together and put together better scripts for people
Mm,
to actually use when communicating with somebody who is losing the ability to process language the way they always used to.
mm-hmm.
So it's been very fascinating.
Well,
It's really
good.
been very fascinating.
Well, I'm delighted. And I love when somebody can take something that I can offer and they can make it something that they can then teach to somebody else in a way that is relevant to their particular topic or issue or situation. I mean, communication, in my opinion, is the key to just about everything, right? Like if we can communicate better and like things change. So
And that's
good.
one of the hardest things in dementia is communication, because two things are happening as the person's brain is changing. Is they are doing and saying things that they never used to,
Mm,
or sometimes they're hallucinating, or they have delusions, or they believe somebody's stealing things from them.
mm,
Um, and all of those situations that occur. And it means that the person who is with that person needs to communicate in a totally different way than what they have their entire lives communicated with this person, to now make it easier for not only themselves but the person living with dementia.
mhm,
Because if you have somebody who is truly believing, because their brain is changing and they're paranoid, that somebody is coming into the house and stealing their stuff,
mhm.
telling them to not worry is not helpful.
Yes. I
And so
literally
how
just
do
heard
we,
this on a podcast this morning where somebody was talking about her mother and having dementia and that was the exact scenario that she gave, is that somebody was coming into, in this case she lived in a facility, so she was coming into her room and people were stealing things and trying to like manage that conversation, and she was sharing that exact thing as being one of the hardest parts of that. So it's so
yeah,
interesting that you bring that up because yeah, like
yeah,
we
if you put
this is why
yourself
you
in
do
that,
what you do, right? Because
yeah,
we need people with your expertise who can give us some skills, some guidance to help us navigate situations that really in a lot of ways our brains will struggle to make sense of because we know something is not
Mhm.
necessarily true. And then how do you manage that conversation when the other person is so adamant that it
Yeah.
is in fact true? So that's so interesting.
Yeah, and our brains are literally a meaning-making machine.
Yes,
We're constantly looking to make sense of what's going on.
100%.
So when the family caregiver then is trying to, I don't want to use the word appease, but
Right.
um, console or make the person feel better, and they say things like, "Don't worry about it."
Mm,
We've mitigated or minimized that person's emotions, which are real. They really believe somebody's coming into their
yeah.
home. And if you really believe somebody's coming into your home, how do you feel? You
Yeah.
feel unsafe,
Unsafe. Yeah.
you feel afraid,
Yes.
and then somebody tells you, don't worry. Now, what do you feel?
Dismissed,
Yes,
angry, frustrated,
yes,
hurt. Like there's all these
100%.
emotions that come.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
So,
so what
so
I've
interesting.
recognized for years in doing this as a therapist, an occupational therapist is my background, but more recently in this space is we, the people around somebody with dementia, are actually causing a lot of the things that we're seeing because we do not know how to communicate with them. And oftentimes by the time we truly either admit it, see it because we don't want to see it in
Mm-hmm.
somebody that you love,
Mm-hmm.
we're behind and we've created a loop. And how do we get out of that loop?
Yes. Yes. In NLP, we call those calibrated loops, and they're very, very hard from a language pattern, and just even from a relationship pattern to sometimes change. I
Yeah,
don't want
for
to say the
sure.
word break, but just to change, it can be, yeah, it's a struggle. Okay. So super fun and interesting to learn more about you and the work that you do. And thank you for sharing it. And I want to make sure that we get to how I can best serve you today. So this is an on-air coaching call for you. What would be useful to you right now in your business? How can I serve you?
Well, firstly, I want to say thank you for changing how I do things by, I don't want to use the word forcing, but encouraging me through the podcast to get rid of free consult calls
Oh,
because
really? Okay. I
they
love
were
that.
killing me.
Yeah.
Uh,
I'm not laughing at them killing you,
no,
but
I
I'm
totally
laughing
get
that,
it.
okay, I get it too.
I came into the online space, the podcast space, um, and I don't even really identify myself in my mind as a coach because I don't actually, I mean, I help people, but I'm not a coach. I'm not a trained coach per se. So, um, the free consultation with the medical model in my background meant giving and giving and giving, and then there was nothing, right?
Right.
Because people would walk away very satisfied, and I'd be like, but we haven't even scratched the surface, right? So I finally got rid of those, which
Good.
has been a wonderful thing.
Good.
And now I'm doing a let's chat call, like a
Yes.
work with Lizette discussion.
Yep.
Um, However, and I'm actually getting a fair amount of people signing up for them. And in one of our previous conversations, the discovery call process is where I'm still stuck
Mm,
in needing to try to come up with a more streamlined and efficient discovery call process. I am, if you know the Colby Index, which a lot of people do,
hmm.
I am an initiating quick start,
Okay.
which means I fly by the seat of my pants and I do pretty well. And at the same time, I am recognizing this is the thing I need to actually script and stick
Yes.
to.
Yeah.
So for me, that's a big realization because I want
Okay.
to fly by the seat of my pants.
I know. I know. The drawback to flying by the seat of your pants in a consultation call, a discovery call, and this is for anybody listening to, not just for you, Lisette, but what happens is we tend to then fall back on the things that we know are like that we can do, and that's going to be coaching. You will coach if you fly by the seat of your pants, because coaching, and I know that word maybe isn't the right, but offering advice, offering solutions, will be the thing that comes out, because that's who you are, that's what you know, that's your expertise. And the problem with that, which you've articulated here, is that then people walk away feeling very satisfied with their interaction with you, but not thinking they need to hire you. Because I always do the grain of sand. You've probably heard me talk about
Yeah.
this on the podcast, yes, or even in our calls, because I use it a lot. It's like, you give them what is the equivalent of a grain of sand of what's possible, because when they work with you, they've got access to the full beach, right? All the resources, all your expertise, all your knowledge, all of your, techniques and all these great things, but they can't see the beach. And so they think the grain of sand is the beach, therefore don't need to hire you because they just got everything they needed. But we all know that one little grain of sand, yes, will be helpful, but it won't actually solve the problem. So we have to get ourselves away from the easy in the discovery and go to a place where we do follow a format. And so I always say here, these are, a well done discovery starts with a pre-frame. I think we've talked about this before. Like, what's the pre-frame? That's the start of the call, that sets the stage. It gets permission to guide the conversation. And then we move into what I consider the two types of questions. There's the right fit questions to establish, yes, I'm talking to somebody who essentially would be a good client and or has a problem or a need. And then the second type of questions that we ask in the discovery are expertise questions. These are the questions that you use in place of your song and dance. I'm going to try to prove how talented and useful I am. And so usually I'll coach here and give advice. And instead, I want you to take what you would do there, and turn it into expertise questions, because instead that plants the seed in the mind of the buyer of like, oh, okay, what Lizette's asking me questions that allows me to go, oh, I need support around that. Yes, I need support around this. And she's going to be the person, because she's asking me this question. Obviously, she's going to be able to help me with this. So coming up with those questions, and I know you and I talked about this a little bit, about that sometimes you can do it in the form of an assessment, right? Like you can ask some assessment questions. And I know we kind of got into this a little bit the other day around kind of the 5 categories for you, the A, B, C, D, E.
So
Yes.
yeah, we're not actually gonna do the A because I was
Right.
thinking about it.
Totally fine. But just stay with me here. That the idea around this is that there really are 5 places and categories where you can show up and assist people. And those are what I want your expertise questions to be
Okay.
around. That's what I would recommend. So tell everybody really quickly the B, D, C.
Okay,
No.
so the B, C, D, E.
Thank you.
Do we just alphabetize it? So
Exactly.
the first one is the hard burdens. So
Yes, the
these
burdens.
things that I cannot keep doing it. I've got too much on my plate, or I'm
Yeah.
in a crisis. The second one are the hard conversations, like she won't listen to me, or she's refusing, or even family conflict, or how to
Yeah.
talk to the healthcare providers. The third one are the hard decisions, like, is it time for us to, for 24 hours supervision, or healthcare power of attorney, or end of life decisions? And then the last one is the emotions that go with it. And these are both the person as the caregiver's emotion, but also their emotions related to where is God in this? Like,
Yeah.
if God is good, why is there dementia? Or I'm the only one doing this, or I should be doing more. I should, why me? All of
Right, right,
those
right. Okay,
questions.
so these are all fantastic categories to
Mhm.
really hone in on the question. So for instance, we want to have a strong question around what is a burden question that plants the seed of like, oh, this is someplace where she can help me. So instead of just asking like, do you feel like this is a burden, right? Like that's maybe a more obvious question, but really thinking about maybe a strategy or a technique or um, uh, uh, philosophy or something that you can offer to somebody when they find themselves as this being one of the challenges. And maybe I shouldn't use burdens. Maybe I should use communications. That might be an easier one for me to pull through
Sure.
for a expertise question. So for instance, maybe a question is, um, at the end, when you find yourself having to communicate to other people that are involved in this situation, are you left feeling like with a resolution, or are you left feeling like that didn't go the way I wanted it to go? And you spend time and energy thinking about how it should have gone differently,
Mm.
right? That now plants the seed in the mind of the buyer of like, yeah, I spend so much, I lay awake at night,
Oh, yeah.
and then thinking about these, right? So now you've gathered this information, and we know that having some skill set built in around their communication would benefit them in some way. So then we would take that information and we would use it when we're talking about ways that we could work with this person when we get to the proposal, step 4 in the selling staircase. And we would use that information. If they say, like, oh, communication feels really easy for me and I'm always really satisfied with those conversations, well, then that's not something we're going to bring into that, right? But if
Mhm.
they say, oh my gosh, I lay awake at night, 3 o'clock in the morning comes and my brain just turns on and I think of, I said this and they said that and they should have said this and I should have said that. Right. Okay. So they give you that information. And then when we get to the place where we're saying, based on what you've shared, I already have an idea of 3 out of the 5 categories that I really support clients on as ways that we could do some deep dive and support you so that you have some freedom. Would you be interested in talking more about what that is now, or ways that we could work together? Now the person is probably going to say, well, what are those 3, right? And now you can speak to the what those 3 are, and communication being one. Like, one of the things that we're going to do is give you some strategy and some technique around those conversations so that you don't spend any extra time laying awake at 3 a.m. thinking about them, right? But even if they don't bring it up then, when we're talking about ways that they can work together or work with you, maybe in the group setting, you could say one of the areas that we focus on in this group experience is communication. And so there's a lot of skill building and a lot of opportunity for you to come and prep for those conversations ahead of time so that you go into them feeling more resilient. Therefore, you don't lose sleep afterwards. Right now, we're speaking right to the heart of the thing that the person is struggling with. And this is why your expertise questions are so crucial in the discovery process.
You make it look so easy.
Well, it takes a little bit of time and effort, and expertise questions are not easy ones, just being really candid. It can sometimes be difficult to figure out what your expertise questions are, and here's why. Because you're an expert. And
Hmm.
because you're an expert, they feel easy. And when
Hmm.
things feel easy, we often dismiss them as not being as important. But yet, it's the things that are the easiest for us, the things that we are so good at in our business, that oftentimes are the things that we need to bring into the conversation, because easy for you might be a real struggle for someone else. And, you also have this component around the Christian faith that would probably be really helpful to have an expertise question to bring in around that as well. Like, when you're thinking about the person that you want to support you through this, how important is it that they can speak from a from a biblical, I'm not using the right terms here, but how important is it to you that they can speak with from a biblical and being able to reference like a biblical reference that
Mhm.
helps make sense of a situation? How important is that to you?
Mm.
Right? Because then now that instead of you having to, stand on the stage and, prove your, you know, Christian beliefs and how they really resonate in, dementia care, like you just ask that question and then somebody goes, well, actually, when I think about who I want to work with, that is such an important part of who I am as a person that it's nice to be able to work with somebody who has those references, can direct me in a way, like all those things. Like we want to work with people, we want to hire people that get us
Mhm.
and not just get us, but have something that is important to us that, lead from that. Really what I'm talking about here is alignment. Like,
Mhm.
it's hard to work with somebody that you just don't feel aligned with. And I know just putting this back and taking it out of the Christian belief, but putting it just back on a sales type situation,
Mhm.
right? Like I know that there are certain types of sales coaches out there that are a better fit for other people, right? Like if
Mhm.
you want somebody who's going to be like harsh, not me. Like if you want somebody who is going to be what I would consider overly direct, and I'm putting quotation marks around that because I think sometimes people are like, "Oh, I love that. I want somebody who's like, pull your head out, mate, and get on with it." Like that won't be me. Like I'm not that kind of coach. And so I want to send that message because I don't want somebody to hire me and then feel disappointed that I'm not kicking their butt all the time. Like that's just not my style. And if you choose to not take my advice around something, I also am not going to be like, well, that's on you. Too bad. Right. Like, I'm going to go, okay, how can we find a solution here? Like, what else could we do together? Like, that's just my style.
Mhm.
And so for some people that will resonate and some people that won't. And what we want to also do in that discovery call is clear the field with the people who are not the right fit. Right. So if somebody's like, oh, I definitely don't want to work with somebody who's going to quote Bible verse to me, you're not their guide. Good.
Yep.
Clear the field, move them out of the like, no, there's plenty of other experts out there for them to go and get the kind of support that is a better fit. And then somebody who's going to be like, oh my gosh, somebody who can quote, a Bible verse and relate it to my situation. I find that incredibly satisfying and helpful. Like they'll love that part of you. So there needs to be some expertise questions, I
Okay.
think, also that
I
fit
think
to
that helps.
the Christian
Yeah.
faith.
Well, back to, if it's okay, to what you shared about other sales coaches, there's a very specific reason that I am here, and that's because of the way that you do things, which is relationship based, because the underlying foundation of the work that I do related to dementia is relationship centered first.
Hmm.
And I tried all the other things out of ignorance, not out of preference,
Mm.
but because I didn't know any better. So, when you kind of start into this out of a medical field, there's like, we never have to sell. You
Right.
have a captive audience. People
Yep.
come to you with a prescription, and you pretty much have a pretty captive audience who
Yeah.
really don't have much of a decision whether or not they choose or want
Hmm.
to actually work with you. And insurance makes it to the point where they pay whether the person wants to or doesn't want to work with you as a particular human. You don't have a lot of autonomy in making that decision. And so coming into learning about sales, because it is an absolute skill,
Yeah.
I learned a lot of really bad things. And I'm like, I experienced them. Not only did I learn them, but then I experienced them to the point that I still have like really bad tastes in my mouth.
Mm,
about some of the sales techniques and sales strategies that people employed, because it's really employed to you. Like
mm.
they did it to you, and they're
Ooh.
extremely effective from a manipulation and a sales psychology perspective. When people are good at that, they're very good at it.
It's
I'm
true.
not, I am not a person who is not discerning. And yet they were able to circumvent even all of the boundaries and things and places that I put protection in and get through. And I spent a lot of money learning very bad things because they were very good at skills and had no, like there was nothing.
And I'm sorry. I'm very sorry that happened to you. And these are back to the when you think about, I think hopefully everybody listening would feel this way too. The thing that makes you you, the thing that is innately kind of how you view the world and how you think about the work that you do and your purpose, right? Is that we really do want to attract our ideal
Mhm.
clients. And so it is important that it comes out in the discovery and that it shows up in how you show up in the world as well, right? Because you want to attract your ideal people that are going to be aligned and find value. Um, I don't know. Maybe there are people out there that are like, hey, I'm just happy for the sale. I am not happy for just the sale. I'm only happy when I have the sale and the client is satisfied. The client has something that they can go and implement. And the client, I mean, I try not to be overly attached to them taking action on it because that's not something I get to control. But if I do my very best and I give them something that will make a difference, and when they implement, get results, that is like the most satisfying, right? To me. And I think with thinking about you and the kind of work you're doing is you really only want to work with people who are going to walk away and be like, I never felt like I had to hire her. I felt like I'm so glad I found her and that she is out in the world doing this work, and it has allowed for me to now feel more resilient. I don't know why I'm using that word with you, but that's coming to mind, and like feel more resilient about the particular situation that I have found myself in, and feel really good about the what we're going through, and or at least better, right? Like maybe it's not
Right,
good, but maybe it's some freedom or find some joy, right? Which I think ultimately is a part of,
right,
like, depending on your faith, right? Like that's a part of that you're to find the joy in every situation, or when you can find joy, right? So if that leaves somebody feeling very satisfied with their interaction with you, then you're doing the work I think that you were meant to do in the world. And so it's again back to your discovery. It is so important that these questions help speak to the heart of the buyer so that they go, yes, this is my person, and or, oh, she's not my person. And that's okay too. Like bless and release, move them out, let them go find a better solution, but also you don't spend time and energy thinking or, trying to earn somebody's business who isn't a good fit for your business. Right. So anyway, I think I'm so again, sorry that happened to you, and good that you have this awareness, because apply it to your business and into your client interactions so that people are able to go, yes, she's my person. And I'll say, I have a real, I have a very like, what will I say? I have a real deep appreciation for somebody who will really stand in the thing that feels very innately who they are and bring that into their business. And it can be hard. And maybe it's because I have such an appreciation and a respect for it, because it's not always easy for me to be that way. And so whether it's your faith, or whether it is your like your particular attitude towards a particular situation, right? Like whatever that is, when you bring it, I think, into like who you are and how you're showing up in the world. It's that real authenticity, that genuine, like being you. And so over the years, I've had such a great pleasure and privilege, honestly, to work with people who are kind of struggling to figure out how to bring that in. And you have already achieved that, right? With the faith piece of and attached, and made it kind of work with your expertise and your background in dementia. So I think it's not for the faint of heart, frankly, to be able to stand in that place and say, this is who I am, and this is the place that I teach from, and the place that I give from. So anyway, I just want to say I have a real respect for that.
Well, thank you very much. I will tell you, it did not come easy.
Mm,
Like I came into it kicking and screaming,
okay.
literally kicking and screaming. I'm like, And it started 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Because
Well,
my husband went to seminary and I'm like, I'm not a pastor's wife. I'm not going to do this. Don't make me go. And I'm like, never tell the Lord what you're not going to do. And so I am a pastor's wife.
yeah.
And then the second iteration was, I don't want to do this as a Christian. Don't make me do it as a Christian.
Hmm.
And then it's like, yeah, you will. I'm like, okay.
Okay. There is just something about being able to embrace, again, like you as a full person and bring that to your business in some way. Um, so anyway, all right. Well, I hope that this gives you some ideas.
It gave me a lot of
Okay,
ideas,
good.
specifically the expertise questions.
Yes.
So just a clarification question
Okay.
for the right fit questions before it.
Uh-huh.
Should the right fit questions be attached to the expertise questions? So, in other words, if my expertise questions are the BCDE and then Christian worldview, should the right fit questions be correlating to those, or should the right fit questions in my specific situation be more related to, say, um, decision making ability for the person, like the
Hmm.
deep way and those kinds of
Yeah.
things?
So when I think about right fit questions, I think they fall into like criteria, like what's important to you in the current situation. What are your goals? Where are you in relation to reaching those goals? Um, whom besides yourself is involved in the decision making for the person with dementia, right? Like we need to understand who the decision makers are. Um, and also, this may or may not come into play in your conversations, but I'm going to bring it into the conversation because it's relevant for 90% of the people listening. At least 90% is budget, something around. And so when I say budget, that can be asked in many different ways. And so we might need to finagle that question a little bit to make it work for you. But oftentimes you don't want to spend a bunch of time and energy putting together proposals and or putting together a way to work with somebody when there's such a disparate, like there's such a, like, what am I trying to say here? Disparate. I can't think of the word, how to say it. How do you say it?
Parity. I
Thank
don't know.
you. Yeah. Between where they are and where the pricing is. Now I say that, and I rarely ask about budget, and just to be really clear about it, because my price is my price. And so if I lay out the price and the person's like, yeah, no. And also I put pricing on my website, like this is all like, I'm not hiding this. So there's usually some kind of an idea. Um, but I might ask about investment, like what are you looking to invest in order to achieve the goal? And if somebody is like, $100, that's different than that's not going to be private coaching offer that I would make to them. So budget may come into this and or investment for you in some way, but those are kind of your right fit questions. And you don't necessarily have just the right fit and then the expertise. They can
Mhm.
intermingle for sure in the conversation. And just to kind of wrap up this whole idea around your discovery, I typically recommend somewhere between 7 to kind of 11, 12 at the most questions to have in your discovery. Kind of, I call this the consultation map, like some type of questions that you follow in your consultation map, because then it helps you know where you're going to go next. That's why I use this term, the consultation map. But the idea here isn't, it's not asking any questions that you really only need the answers to once somebody hires you. So for instance, like daily routines or upcoming, like what's the schedule or any of that, those are questions that are, in my opinion, are probably better saved for your intake form and or your initial like coaching or guiding session, whatever you would call that. So be careful. Discovery is for finding out, does this person have a need? Do I have a solution that meets their need? And do I have their permission to put it in front of them? And do they have a need and do I have a solution? You determine that by asking your right fit questions and your expertise questions.
That was helpful.
Good. Good. All right.
So need, solution, permission.
Need. Yes. Solution, permission. You got it. Yep. You got those 3 things in place. It's so much easier to earn somebody's business. So yeah, you got this.
It's significantly better than it was.
Good. It will get easier too as you practice it. All right.
Practicing. Like I'm one of these people, like, even if it doesn't go well and the person doesn't end up hiring me, I'm okay because it's data.
It's data. That's
I'm
right.
like, don't get bent out of shape if they say no. It's just data. Okay, what do I need to do differently, or was this not the right person?
You got it. You got it. It's just, I love showing up from, and I love that you're showing up from this place of like, just be curious and see what happens. And then use that information to further kind of what comes next. What might you change? What could you, like, oh, I'm going to do that again because it worked so well. Like, it's just information. It's like, I always say it's like building a muscle. You just got to practice it. You got to work it. And as you work it, it gets easier and easier. So congratulations. All right. We're going to wrap up. Thank you so much for being brave and coming on and sharing about who you are and what you do, but also allowing me this opportunity to offer you um, some strategy around that discovery process. It's such an important piece. As we bring this to a close, I know you know this about the podcast. This is our little something extra. I always like to ask our Sales Maven Society members, what is one skill that you have learned already from being in the Sales Maven Society that has benefited your business?
Asking better questions.
Amen. Yes.
Like really asking better questions.
Yes.
And then the other thing that I really enjoy about the Sales Maven, I haven't had the opportunity. I mean, I'm wet behind the ears. I don't even think I've been in the group 5 weeks. Is the questions that people ask in the group, because I'm an auditory visual learner. So I listen to the podcast and then I read inside the group other people's questions. And that's how learning happens for me, is being able to take the concepts other people are asking, other situations that I haven't come across yet, or things that I have come across that maybe I did, and then realizing maybe I didn't do such a terrible job,
Mm.
or sometimes realizing, oh yeah, you really screwed up on that one.
Again, data. It's just data. That's all it
It's
is.
data.
All right. Okay. So, for anybody listening, what is the best way for someone to get in touch with you? Because I suspect there might be somebody out there listening thinking, I need some support in what I'm going through right now. What's the best way?
So I'd love people, if they're interested, to listen to my podcast. It's Dementia Caregiver Support for Christians. So super, super easy SEO, Dementia Caregiver Support for Christians. The website is thinkdifferentdementia.com. And then people can email me at my email address, which is Lizette at thinkdifferentdementia.com. So super, super easy. And I
Fantastic.
do have a Facebook group also. It's the same name as the podcast, but I really would prefer people to listen to the podcast first.
Well, we have podcast listeners, so
Yes.
that's good to direct them in that way.
Well, podcast listeners are awesome humans.
I
And
agree.
it's really interesting because podcasts are really just a reiteration of on-demand radio.
Mm,
But nobody actually thinks about it that way. When you're an older adult, they don't put together podcast and radio and on-demand radio.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
I love that. I love that. All right. Well, thank you so much, like I said. And thank you to you, the listener, for being here, for showing up. And if you know somebody who would benefit from what Lisette is out in the world doing, please share with somebody who is going through this challenge, this life event that is maybe happening. Let them know. And if you found this episode helpful as far as your discovery questions and you need some support around that, please know you're welcome to reach out to me. And in the meantime, I'm wishing you continued success in all you're doing. Have a great rest of the day. Bye, everyone.